When a prominent young politician named Celina Nebanda died suddenly, the entire nation was just plunged into grief and a whole lot of suspicion. And pretty much all eyes turned to the one person she was last seen with, her boyfriend, Uganda Kalungi. His story, well, it would end up raising way more questions than answers.
So, that was the question on everyone's mind, right? You have this vibrant political career just cut short. You have a boyfriend who seems to have vanished into thin air. And what you're about to see is a story that gets so much more complicated. The whole country wanted answers, but the truth, well, it was going to be anything but simple.
As all this suspicion just reached a boiling point, the main person of interest did the one thing that could only confirm everybody's worst fears. He ran.
So for weeks, the country pretty much held its breath. The manhunt for Uganda Kalungi was on the front page of every newspaper. Rumors were swirling that he'd fled across the border into Kenya, and without him, the truth about Nebanda's final moments felt like it was just totally out of reach. But then, finally, after this really intense search, he was caught and brought back to Uganda to face the music.
But when Uganda Kalungi finally stood in that courtroom, the charges that were read out by the prosecution, they contained a really stunning omission.
The state accused him of unlawfully causing her death, okay? They charged him with possession of narcotics and with trying to hide information from the police. Now, these are serious charges, for sure, but they weren't the one charge everyone was expecting to hear.
In a twist that absolutely shocked the public and just fueled this firestorm of debate, Uganda Kalungi was not charged with murder. The most serious potential charge was just gone.
And this, immediately raised the huge question that would end up defining the entire trial. Was this a sign of a cover-up? Was someone powerful being protected? Or was it something simpler, and honestly more frustrating, that the state just didn't have the evidence to make a murder charge stick?
What came next was this courtroom drama that, instead of giving anybody any clarity, just seemed to make the mystery even deeper. It basically pitted two completely different versions of events right against each other.
The whole trial really boiled down to two stories that just could not both be true. The prosecution's argument was that Nebanda overdosed and Kalungi's critical failure was not getting her to a hospital right away. But his defense team? They painted a totally different picture, that she suddenly collapsed and he ran away not because he was guilty, but because he was in a total panic.
And the confusion, it did not stop there. You had friends swearing up and down that Nebanda never touched drugs. You had medical experts getting on the stand and completely contradicting each other. And all the while, politicians were publicly accusing the state of a massive cover-up. The trial wasn't just a legal battle, it was this tangled web of contradictions.
A journalist who was covering the trial, I think they captured the feeling perfectly. They observed that the more evidence presented, the less clear the story became. It really seemed like the only thing that was clear coming out of that courtroom was that nothing was clear at all.
So, finally, after months of conflicting testimony and all this public speculation, the court was ready. It was time to deliver its highly anticipated judgment.
The verdict all hinged on this one specific legal idea: death by negligence. So, Kalungi was found guilty not of an intentional act, not of murder, but of a failure to act. The court decided that his delay in getting urgent medical care for Nebanda is what ultimately led to her death.
And the sentence for this act of negligence? 4 years. 4 years in prison. For so many people who had been following this case from the beginning, that number just felt shockingly small.
So that verdict just fractured the nation. For some people, it was a just conclusion based on the evidence they had. But for so many others, it felt like a profound injustice, like the final act in a cover-up that was designed to protect the real people responsible.
So the trial was over, and a sentence was handed down. But for Uganda, the story of Cerinah Nebanda was far from finished. This case, it really left a lasting scar on the nation's psyche.
To this day, Cerinah Nebanda's death is still one of the country's most polarizing tragedies. It's just one of those cases where law and politics and medicine all collided, and what it left behind was nothing but doubt and a growing list of unanswered questions.
And so we're all left with this really haunting question. Was the full story of what happened that tragic night buried forever with Cerinah Nebanda? Or is the real truth still out there somewhere, hidden from view, just waiting for the day it might finally be brought into the light?